her question was, how do you remove someone from your bridal party?
Oh man, wow. That's a rough question. First of all, you need to ask yourself, do I want to be friends with this person after my wedding? Because I'm going to be honest, I don't know if you can come back from this.
No, it's never been the right time. Like we're holding back the storyline. And I'm waiting at the end of the night, thinking of you.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Call Your Mom. We have been out for a while because we had a lot of fun things going on. Okay, so just so you're aware, but Mom, what has been happening in your life? I mean, I know a lot because you guys, I'm always with her, but tell the audience, what has been going on? Where have we been? What are all the fun things that are going on?
So we've been to Stagecoach. That was super fun. And Post Malone was definitely one of the highlights.
He was so much fun.
Oh my gosh, so good.
The Morgan Wallen Post Malone situation was amazing.
Amazing.
And if you follow any country music, you know Morgan Wallen's like topping the charts, of course, but to have Post Malone, their voices together was like amazing.
Oh my gosh, and he brought back like all these different artists out, like Brad Paisley and
Sarah Evans.
Yes, so good.
It was so much fun. Even Reba was there with Mariana Lambert, and it was like, oh, such a great moment.
So good.
But yeah, we were there, and then we had a wedding for my cousin in South Carolina, and then I had a bachelorette for my best friend of 20 years, which actually, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about friendships today. So, but I had, of course, celebrate my friend that I've known for over 20 years now. We met in second grade. So I think we were like 7 years old. So
yeah. So shout out to Shani. Congratulations.
Yeah. But it was so cool because at this bachelorette, you know, any bachelorette that you go to, friendships are a huge topic of conversation. And as I've gone older and have attended bachelorettes over the years, the subject of adult friendships is one of the number one topics because you're meeting new people. Some of the girls I've never met before, right? And then, you know, you're having to get along with all these different personalities and all these different backgrounds because they've all known the bride in certain areas. So making friendships, I get along with, you know, pretty much anyone. So I was like, hi, you know, being my bubbly self. But adult friendships, you know, when you sit down with all the girls, kind of they are like, it's hard. It's hard to have adult friendships.
Yeah. And that's something you and I talk about all the time. We talk about how as adults, it's very difficult to make friendships, not just make friendships, but also maintain friendships. And then also we talk a lot about like how we've lost friendships over the years. I mean, it's a big subject.
It really is. It's so much so that we have some stats for you guys. Over 60% of us report loneliness on a regular basis. That's from Women's Health. So 60% of us report that we have loneliness every single day. Us women, that's crazy.
That was crazy to me when I read that, just because with a day and age of technology where we can reach out to people all the time, I just thought that was kind of wild. And I know I've experienced that before because I just think everyone goes through it at some point. And it's, for me, it's not all the time, but I think a lot of people go through that at some point.
Well, we're either in constant communication or we're not.
Yeah.
But people also think that like they could reach you at any point, but sometimes you just need a break.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's such a good point. That is such a good point because I feel like a lot of times we don't recognize that, you know, our phones are here. And so we are constantly in communication, social media, through friendships, through work.
Yes.
There's so much different. So we're always talking to people and it may feel like friendship, but maybe it's not necessarily like, you know, meaningful.
Exactly. Yes. So true. And that's kind of, I think, where people could get lonely is because they're not having deeper conversations. Not that you're meant to have deeper conversations on a daily basis, but it is harder for us girls to open up because I think we've been taught this stigma of we have to do it ourselves. That was part of like the whole movement of like, you know, we're women, we could do it all. But then so much so it's on the flip end where we're not actually reaching out to our friends and being vulnerable. Vulnerability is so important. Think about community. People raise their children in communities. You know, that saying, it takes a village. It's so true. And I think a lot of my friends, as we enter our 30s and we're starting to have children and have these certain things, we're craving friendships even more because it does take a village to raise little children. And I think we were kind of taught like, no, you could just do it all on your own. You don't need anyone else.
Oh, absolutely. And I also think social media plays a role in being kind of anti-vulnerable because we're seeing everyone's highlight reels. So everyone's life looks great, looks happy. Everyone looks like they've got it all together. And then maybe you're going through something and you just are like, I don't want to burden this person, or I don't want to look like I'm incapable, or that I can't do this or do that. Or maybe it's just you feel you're just going through some mental health issues and you don't want people to perceive you a certain way. And so I think that's another reason we as women were told to, have it all together and that we can do it all and have it all. And I think it makes us feel like we can't really share.
Yeah, I think it makes us feel a little bit out of control, which is really interesting because sometimes you got to be a little out of control.
Right?
Life's got to be all over the place. That's how you get creativity sometimes. That's how you excel in certain areas. Is to be a little out of control and to be a little lenient. But no, it's being buttoned up is so important. And in society, I guess, we're like taught like, have it all together. And the only way to do that is if you have a perfect routine, perfect this, perfect that. Have your social calendar filled out with all these things, all these friends. When in reality, you're only probably going to only have like 2 to 3, a little handful of really good friends. Yeah. Like you're not going to have 20 plus. I mean, you can. There's some people who do. But the average person only has like 3 to 4 friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty much another reason why like social media, it kind of makes us think that everyone has a million friends, like a ton of friends, because you're seeing them with groups of people all the time, these reels of, and I've actually had someone say that to me. They're like, I just feel like I don't have a lot of friends. Like I see people online and they're always doing stuff with their girlfriends, like a ton of women. And I'm like, well, the reality is most people don't have, 20, 30 really close friends. They just have a handful.
Well, that brings me to the next stat. On average, women have around 5 close friends, according to a survey conducted by the University of Oxford. Okay, 5 close friends. Like, I'm like, okay, thinking in my head, I think that's kind of what I have.
Same.
And over the years, too, my numbers have gotten smaller with friends just because people fall off. Maybe you don't get along with them anymore, or maybe they move away and you kind of aren't as close anymore. But the truth is, like, you really do have like a small group, and that's okay. That's fine. I think most people don't think they need to have more than that.
Oh, yeah. I would say I have a small group of close friends. And I think as I've gotten older, it's because I've learned that I also don't need to share with everybody my life. Sometimes it's, you need to figure out who's safe, who you can really share be vulnerable with and share your life struggles with, knowing that it's a safe environment, and also you're going to get sound advice. So
that is true. Actually, I was saying like be careful who you take advice from is so true, because in friendships, especially women friendships, there's sometimes women are jealous, sometimes they can be mean, sometimes, and not to put a stigma on us, but that sometimes has been the story for a long time. And I got so over it where I was like, why? Why do we have to do that? Who cares? If someone else wins, that is like the best feeling in the whole entire world. I will be one of the number one supporters of my friends who even have businesses or they're starting something new. I think over the weekend at the Bachelorette, I was talking about my friend Autumn's hair company, and I did like a whole reel with one of my friends who's super long, hair. And then even Sarah, she did our spray tans. And I'm like so happy for these women. I mean, my friend Jamie, she has a jewelry company. I pretty much only wear her jewelry. It's like supporting each other and pouring into each other is so important. And not a lot of women do that. They see other women as competition, and that's like so unnecessary. Oh. Let's just throw that out the window because it doesn't even matter anymore. We could all win. There's room for all of us.
Exactly. There's room for everyone.
Yep.
And I feel like, too, sometimes people are giving you advice from their perception. So maybe from their fears, from where they've actually had failures in their life or hurts that have come from other people. So then they are projecting that onto you.
Yep.
And so, yeah, you have to just be selective with who you share your vulnerability with, that is, something you have to do.
Okay. So one of the main topics that we got questions about when we put out like, hey, what are you girls looking to hear? What are you guys looking to talk about? It was friendships overall. But one of the main questions was like, how do you navigate like breakups?
Oh, friendship breakup.
Yeah. So how do you navigate breakup friendships?
Well, I just went through one. So, so I had a really good friend, and we've been friends for about 8 years, and we had a disagreement on something. And it's funny, the very thing that she taught me was how to kind of have a backbone and have boundaries and to speak up. And it was the very thing that actually ended up kind of ending our friendship, I think. It's because I spoke up and I made boundaries, and she didn't like it. And without going into what we were talking about, I had thought, oh, everything's fine. Like I apologized, she apologized, and we thought everything, you could feel everything was different, but I was hoping it would go back to the way it was. And eventually it just didn't. And it kind of just, I feel like faded almost. And I don't know if she was expecting me to pursue her, or maybe, I'm not really sure. But the way I handled it was, I know this sounds kind of like la la, but I wished her well. In my heart, I was like, I just wish you well. I hope she's having a good life. I hope her kids are doing great and all of those things. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that bitterness does is trip us up. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I handled it. I just kind of just let it go instead of needing to have the last word.
I think another thing that trips us up is we want to have the last word, and that is so not necessary. You don't have to have the last word. We just need to know the art of letting go. Yeah. That's the truth. The art of letting go, because we will build up so much around something, and then it'll make us bitter, it'll make us angry, it'll make us jealous. And then the truth is, we're not going to actually go live life and make new friendships, because we're either guarded because of what happened to us, or we're letting circumstances dictate what other people are doing when you don't even know the other person. So don't let these walls up, right? Just let things go, and then go meet new friends, because that's the truth. You can always go meet new people. I know it's hard, which we'll get to that, but you can always meet someone new.
Yeah, it's just trying to find a way of letting that hurt actually turn into something positive. So what I tried to do was I tried to find all the lessons I learned in that friendship and take all that good stuff out and take it with me into the next, friendship or whatever. Because at the end of the day, the reason why we want a last word is we want a response from someone that we're probably not going to get.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is we'll spend a lot of time thinking about what they're thinking and how their actions are maybe some way tied to, us in some way. And truth is, we're not mind readers. We don't know what anybody's thinking. Their actions have nothing to do with us. And so it's just best to let go and go live. And like you said, enjoy the friends you do have. And in that process, while you're enjoying your life, you're going to attract more friends.
I was going to say that, you will attract the people who actually want to be your friend. Because I've had friendships who fall apart because they either said something mean about me behind their back, or they didn't take the time to think of the other person. So one of the main things I struggle with when it comes to friendships is women assuming something versus just straight up asking you. So maybe I haven't reached out in a long time because I've been going through a lot, or, maybe I've been super stressed at work, so I haven't reached out to someone. And they'll take it personally instead of just asking me, hey, haven't heard from you in so long. What's been going on? And the truth is, if that person would have just asked me, they would have realized, oh, it's not me. It's just she's busy, or she's going through something, or she's having a hard time, or whatever it is. And I've had friendships just fall apart because they didn't take the time to just simply ask.
Yeah. I think that's kind of all of us do that. And I think it's really common because we're so wrapped up in our own stuff and in our own lives and in our own worries and our own hustle and bustle, like everything we're doing, that we just assume that everything's, again, what someone's doing has something to do with us. When in reality, 99.9% of the time it has zero to do with us, and they're just living their lives. And I don't know why it's so hard for us to just say, hey, my feelings are hurt. Have you been avoiding me? Hey, how are you? I feel like you've been, too busy for me and it's kind of making me sad or whatever.
Or feeling distant.
Yeah, or I just feel distant. Can we get together for a cup of coffee? And I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just in today's like social media society of just like self-love and just we're kind of more inward focused than outward focused on other people and their needs, or maybe there might be something going on with them. I'm not really sure, but I think it happens to all of us.
I think so too. I think people assume the worst.
Yeah.
I've really learned that people assume the worst about someone when their intentions truly aren't that deep.
Yeah.
We're just internalizing and telling ourselves a narrative that's not even true.
Yeah.
And we really need to take a look in the mirror, I think, sometimes as girls, and not tell us certain stories and just, completely look at the other person and put our feet into someone else's shoes. Because I think we tend to not do that. We tend to just assume the worst about someone. Has nothing to even do with us.
Yeah. And that's like it all boils down to communication.
100%.
So what are some things that you learned about communication in friendship?
I would say messaging friendships often. So even if it's just on social media, so sending a meme, maybe sending, a text message, just asking how someone's doing is huge. I also say, even if you're in a busy season and you're not able to go hang out with someone, you're not able to reach out, just communicating that you are busy and just saying like, hey, I have a really busy season coming up right now, or I have this going on. Is there any way we can, meet up a month from now? Or how are you doing? Or just say, I just want to catch up. A huge thing between my friendships is voice memos. So we'll send each other like 5-minute podcasts, but it's like a quick 10 minutes of our lives that we like caught up, we're good to go, we miss each other, but we're at least reaching out to each other and letting each other know like, we're alive, hi.
Yeah.
But we're just busy. Because I think a lot of girls are like, oh, she's too busy for me. And it's like, that's not the truth. I'm just trying to live my life. I'm just trying to get by. That's been like my main motto the last like year, I'm going to be honest, is like I've had people take it personally. And I have another friend, the same thing. And I'm like, don't take it personally. I'm just trying to survive, like trying to keep my head above water and make life happen. It's not you.
It's all me.
Yes.
What's that like breakup? It's not you, it's me.
It's me. It's so true.
I have a whole group chat with 3 of my really close friends, and they're some of my best friends. And literally we have a group chat on Instagram that we just send each other memes. We're all so busy. We haven't seen each other in forever, it feels like. But we're all in different seasons of our lives. Mm-hmm. So that's like a way. I mean, we have another group chat on text where we'll randomly text each other like, hey, can you, pray for me about this? Or, hey, I'm going through this, or whatever it is. Like, we keep tabs on each other and we're able to communicate, but like, we can't see each other. Mm-hmm. So that's how we stay in touch. And I think it's important to do what you're saying is take advantage of the technology we have and just like shoot your friend a text, shoot them a voice memo, maybe do a video, whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's we're lucky to have that.
Exactly. And I think too, like this is kind of funny, but on FaceTime, when you FaceTime someone, there's like you can record like a message if they don't answer. Even those are really cute. Totally. I've received a few of those and they're so fun just to get and like have this little message from your friend. There's so many different ways you can connect.
Yeah.
So many different ways. Okay, so, sorry, my cough is so bad. Okay, so a quick question. How do you make friends as a grown-up? Like, I think that is a huge other subject that we got when I put the poll up was, how do you make friends?
Okay. I am going to be honest. I feel like the world of women and breaking into friendship is hard. Do you feel that way too?
It's really hard. I think too, more women don't trust anymore. That would be something I find. They don't want to open up. They don't trust girls because they think they're automatically going to be mean girls.
Or Or it's just, is it our age? Like as we get older, you're just like, well, this is my group of friends and I don't need any more friends.
I don't know. I mean, how I made adult friendships, because I've made really close friends.
Yeah.
I've gone on trips with people I don't know.
Yes.
Signed up through the internet. That really helped. That actually became some of my closest friends by doing that. I've met girls through social media, just like messaging them and being like, oh, I love this, complimenting people, right? Just being genuine. And I've also made friends through like going to like a party or going through to maybe my friend put a pottery class together or something. And I've made friends that way as well. But that's kind of how I've made adult friendships. Because a lot of girls like get them from college or high school and then stick together.
Yeah, and I think because a lot of people work remote now, I think it's really hard. Like before you could make work friends. And I don't think a lot of people have that anymore just because we do work remote.
Yep.
So it's not like you're in an office setting. But the ways that I've made adult friendship is through other people.
Yeah.
So like my friend will introduce me to friends.
Yep.
And then I just actively reach out and say, hey, do you want to go for a walk or you want to go grab a cup of coffee? And then also through social media.
Yes.
I've made friends. So, I mean, same ways.
Yeah, I think too, just being genuine.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that I have found that really stop women from making friends is they don't just put themselves out there. So I will tend to, when I'm at like a dinner party or I'm at a party, I will actually just go up to the person and compliment them. I feel like that's the easiest way to open up a conversation.
Okay, me too.
Yeah.
I do the same exact thing.
Oh my gosh, I like your shoes,
Yeah.
or your hair is so pretty,
Your
or
eyeshadow looks so good tonight.
where did you get your dress, or how did you do your hair? Do you do this? And then they just are like, oh my gosh, this person is just a genuine person because you're putting the focus on them. So this is a little bit of a networking hack too. So if you're ever for, work or anything. So if you're trying to network and get to know people, if you put the focus on them, people love talking about themselves.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Absolutely. Allow the person to talk about themselves forever. And then you can give them a call the next day and say, I loved talking to you about X, whatever it was, my dog, Sally, and then you could have a full conversation with that person and open it up to then make new friendships or, work opportunities. Little hack there, ladies.
That's so true. That's literally what I used to do when I did sales is I would automatically find something to say, that was complimentary toward the person. And then it just opened up a whole conversation. And a lot of times I would look for something maybe similar, like oh my gosh, we'd have cute shoes on together. And I'm like, look at us. We have the same cute shoes, something like that. And it just, it makes you seem warm and not a fake compliment people, like genuinely try to find something that, is a real compliment toward that person.
Yes.
So that it's genuine, because that will show through.
Also, I think too, we as women are always thinking about all the negative things about ourselves. It's really hard for us to process positive. Don't know why. We just tend to reflect this negativity about ourselves. So if you're able to look at someone and pull out the greatness in them and just compliment them, pour into them, give them positivity, it just makes you look so much happier and genuine. You're more likely to have more friendships and do things because you're genuinely just loving on someone. And it takes no time at all to compliment someone, tell them they're doing great. Even if it's just a friendship that you haven't seen in forever or someone you want to message. I have a friend I always just message. I can't see her all the time. And I'll just be like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. I saw you working out. Or, oh my gosh, I loved your outfit today on Instagram. Just complimenting people. It'll go a long way.
Yeah. It makes people feel loved.
Exactly.
Seen, heard, all the good things.
Yes. And I think too, adult friendships are so complicated because I feel like when you were little, you didn't overthink it.
Yeah.
You're like, here is a ladybug. Do you want to go ladybug hunting with me? And they're like, yeah, let's go ladybug hunting. Now we're all worried about is she going to like me? Or is she mean? Or is she someone who's going to gossip? Or maybe, am I weird? Am I talking too much? Am I opening up? We have this dialogue in our head that's telling us all this crap that makes no sense. It's not even true. You're making it all up.
Yeah. I just watched a video on that. It was about intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
And how they just pop up randomly all the time. And I'm 45, and I still, like, I'll go to a social function or whatever, and sometimes that'll pop in my head, like, am I talking too much? Was I laughing too loud? And it's just so funny because no one else is thinking about it.
Nope.
Not one person. But yeah, adult friendships are a little complicated because we do overthink. And so then I think we tend to, when we meet people, kind of not bring our genuine self forward.
Yes.
So
100%. And one thing with adult friendships and being genuine is having the vulnerability, going back to vulnerability, to be a genuine person. One thing about myself, I always try to go back is to my intentions and to check my heart, because, you know, I'm like, okay, I'm a person who loves to genuinely see people win. Like, that is actually one of my personality traits where I love pouring into people. I can see the greatness in people, I pull it out of them. So I always like to make sure when I'm, you know, reaching out to my friends or reaching out to things, saying things about them that are going to lift them up, and being vulnerable enough to do that, or being vulnerable enough to say, hey, I've been having a really bad week. Is there any way, like, we can meet up for coffee? I'd love to talk about it. I think too, we don't do that enough either. It's just a vulnerability in general, to have real raw friendships, to have deeper conversations, positive or, hey, I'm having a crappy week.
So a really good book I read about this was called Sorry I'm Late, I Did Want to Come. And it's a introvert's year of saying yes. And I'm not an introvert at all. Although she was laughing because when I got the book, I'm like, oh, I think I might be an introvert. And Sierra was like, no, Mom. So anyways, I read the book anyhow, and it had a whole chapters on how people are craving vulnerable conversations to talk deeper, but we don't ask the questions. We don't make the time, or maybe we're just not brave enough to dive in and say, you know, whatever the question may be, but to go deeper. And that in the book, she documents, it's a memoir, and how she starts asking these deeper questions, and it starts opening conversations and deepens her friendships.
Wow.
I thought it was really interesting because, like you said, I think a lot of times we're afraid to do that. One, I think we're afraid that we're going to offend someone. I know for me, I'm like, well, maybe they don't want to share that. You know what I mean? So when I try to, like, I feel like I'm prying, but I also think, oh, well, how will they receive me? And I think that's where we need to stop worrying about that. Because like I said, you know, I always tell you, right, the delivery is our job, but how someone receives it is theirs. And so I think being vulnerable in friendship is actually weighted, you know, something we need to start doing more.
Okay, so we talked about vulnerability and opening up, right? But what about boundaries? What about the opposite? What about setting up walls, you know, where you need to, right? Because I sometimes don't think we do that enough either. I feel like there's two sides of the spectrum. You're either a super people pleaser, or you're someone who doesn't even want to talk to anyone. You want to be a hermit and hide in your closet. Totally. And honestly, I have both personalities, I'm going to be honest. Yeah. But one of the things I struggled with a long time was people pleasing. And I think every woman at some point struggles with this. But where do you set your boundaries? How do you set your boundaries? And where have you experienced that?
For me, it's just about being intentional. So for a long time, I didn't have boundaries. I was a total people pleaser. So if someone wanted to do something or go somewhere, whatever, I was just like, yes, sure, okay, you know. And then it ended up leaving me feeling like, you know, resentful and tired and just worn out. And so for me, the way I have navigated friendships and boundaries is I communicate with that person. And it goes back to the communication piece. And I just let them know, like, hey, you know what? I go to bed at this time. So going out at that time just isn't going to work for me. I love you. Have a great time. Enjoy yourself. But next time, if you want me to go, invite me a little earlier. And just being really honest. Because I think that's something, you know, people appreciate. If they love you, they're not going to be offended by your genuine honesty when you're speaking about how this is something I value in my life. This is what makes me feel good in my life. So this is how I have to do things. So that means I can't do this.
And being on the receiving end of that, and just being a friend who actually is like, you know, I respect that. Or even encouraging that person in that boundary is so important. Yeah. So, okay, this actually leads to one of our questions that we got. Oh. So let me pull it up real quick. Okay, so This is about a bridal party. So this girl has a long-term friend who is in her bridal party, but she wants to actually like remove her from the bridal party because I guess if you were to read this, she was causing her a lot of stress about like planning, about everything. And it was actually causing her like to not enjoy the process, where she was like, I don't even want to have a bachelorette party. I don't want to have a bridal party, because it was stressing her out so much, because this friend just wasn't really like feeling happy for her and wasn't really like trying to be supportive and be a part of the process. So her question was, how do you remove someone, and especially someone you kind of grew apart from your bridal party?
Oh man, wow. That's a rough question.
That's a really rough question.
Okay. Well, first of all, you need to ask yourself, do I want to be friends with this person after my wedding? Because I'm going to be honest, I don't know if you could come back from this. So if you remove this person from your wedding party and you tell them why, even if you have a heart-to-heart and you're so heartfelt, they're going to be very wounded. They may not be able to see their own actions and the way they're behaving toward you, or the way they're making you feel. So they're just going to see their hurt. So I feel like that's the first question you have to ask. You have to ask, am I going to want to be a friend with this person afterwards? Because I don't think a friendship can survive that. And then I would say, if it's really that important to you, then you need to be honest with yourself and genuinely sit down and talk to that person maybe and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is what's going on. And then if you have to remove them, if they're going to be hostile about it or they can't be gracious about it, then you ask them to leave. But
Yep.
I don't think I don't know if a friendship would survive that.
I don't know either. Yeah. I think it would be difficult to cut someone out, but it is like one day of your life that you want to make sure is perfect. So if I were you, I would definitely consider whether or not you want to be friends with this person afterwards. Secondly, I would say it in the most gracious, humble way you can. I think sometimes we forget that our words can be hurtful. And so taking time to set your phone down first before sending the text message is really important. And what I mean by this is type the text message when you're heated in your notes, then come back to it 10 minutes later and reread it. Because I guarantee you, after you cool down, or maybe you process a little bit more what you're trying to relay to this other person, you're going to want to change a few things. And so coming from it from that perspective, and a humble perspective, and being as kind as possible, absolutely, is going to really let this just roll over a little easier, especially for you. Because imagine if you get hot and heated and you're like ready to fight, right? And then they're ready to fight too. You're not even going to enjoy your wedding.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think it needs to be a phone call or in person though.
Yes.
Because people can't, when you do a text message, people read from their hurt or from their point of view, so they can't know your tone. They don't hear your tone. They don't hear your humility. They don't hear your heart. And so I think a phone call, if you can't be with the person in face-to-face, is the next best thing to do. So, okay. But I agree with you, writing out how you feel and all that stuff just to get it out, and then going back and looking at it. But either way, that's a tough situation. I totally get it. As a bride, you want your day to be fun. You want it to be with everyone that supports you and not with people that make it about them.
Yeah. And honestly, if I were a bride, do it. Pull the person out of your bridal party, because it is one day and you actually want to feel happy. You want to feel good. So pull the person out of your bridal party.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So a next one we got, because I want to make sure we answer all of these things, right? Is outgrowing friendships.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So this is a huge one, because I have friendships personally from high school, and I've been really good friends with them, and we've been together through every up and down you can think of. And I find it interesting saying outgrowing friendships, because I've stuck with these girls forever, and they've always been in different places for me. So a lot of them are actually having babies right now, and I'm not even close to having a baby, right? But yeah, I feel like I can't relate to some things, but it doesn't mean that I'm not happy for them, right? Or I don't feel close to them in some capacity. So my perspective on this is a little different because I think life is so hard that no matter what, everyone is going through something, right? And if you could just be there for that person, I think it's more important. So that's kind of my perspective on outgrowing, because I guess I've never experienced like outgrowing someone to be like, adios, bye, like I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I guess I've just kind of gone like, okay, maybe we don't talk for a few months, but then it always kind of comes back, if that makes sense.
I think friendships are an ebb and flow. I think I agree with you. I know for me, the reason I outgrow a friendship in some seasons is because I'm growing. So where I was when I met that person, maybe I met that person when I was really wounded or in a really like, you know, just mentally unhealthy place for me. And so that person was meeting a need at the time. And then, you know, when I, you know, lean into the healing process, then that person kind of we don't have this, maybe we don't share the same values or something. So, I mean, I feel like you can outgrow people, and it's sad and it's really difficult, but like if that person doesn't share your values, I think you met them during a season when, you know, you had different values, and now they don't share the same values, and the values that you did share with them were unhealthy versus now you're in a healthy place, then it's okay to like kind of just let go, I feel like. And just let it go. Doesn't mean you just sit down and tell, you don't have to sit down and have a hard conversation and be mean about it, but it's okay to just let it kind of fade away. But it's okay to also love them from a distance and say, oh, hey, I saw you, you know, whatever. But I don't know.
You know what, that is true, because I have a friendship that kind of has done that on and off for years. And we've always still connected. We've always still come back together. But I do agree with you. You know, maybe they move away or maybe it's this, but doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a hard conversation and sit down, because sometimes it's just you're growing apart. Yeah. You're outgrowing each other. You're growing apart because your life is changing and maybe your career changing, maybe your mental state is changing and your values change. I think it's so important that we keep our values high above everything else in our lives, because then we can base our whole entire life based on those values and figuring out what those values are. And then that will always fall along with friendships. Actually, values is a whole nother podcast I really would want to dive into.
Yeah, we've been talking about that a lot lately.
Yes. Okay, so that was kind of all of our friendship topics. We do have one more question that we can answer, and then we have to wrap it up. Okay. But we may need a part 2 to this. Yeah, but here's this last one. So this one's kind of a specific, okay? So what to do when your fiance is really close friends with your best friend ex-boyfriend.
Okay.
So her fiance is best friends with her best friend's ex-boyfriend. Okay. So let's say my friend Nancy, we're going to make up a friend, breaks up with her boyfriend. Yeah. But our boyfriend, or my Johnny, let's say, was friends with that guy. And now they're still close friends, but your friend's like, hey, can you like not hang out with him? Like that'd be horrible.
So uncomfortable. Wow, that is rough. I think that's super rough. As a 45-year-old woman, I would say that it's not fair for your fiance to not be able to hang out with his buddy. So maybe try to find a compromise and don't do like barbecues where both of them are invited.
Yeah.
Maybe take turns and have your best friend come and hang out that time with the group of friends. And then the next time he can have his buddy come, her ex-boyfriend, come with his new person, his new girl, and hang out with them at that time. And although it may hurt your friend that maybe her ex-boyfriend has a new girlfriend that's coming to your guys' barbecue, she also needs to be understanding.
Yeah.
She needs to recognize that that's not really fair for your fiance to have to give up a good friendship, especially if it's a healthy friendship, somebody that actually is like motivating him and, you know, is a really good man. So as an older woman, I'm going to tell you that I think that you can figure out a compromise.
I agree, because you could just do stuff separate. Yeah, you know, they could go have their guy time and then you could have barbecues, keep it separate. Like, it doesn't need to necessarily be like a whole thing, right?
Also, when it comes to the wedding, they just need to be grown-ups.
Yes.
So, because it's the fiance, right? So obviously they're going to be getting married, and they're probably going to want to invite those two people. She's going to want to invite her best friend. He's
Yeah.
going to want to invite her ex-boyfriend. So they just need to be grown-ups about it.
Yeah, you broke up, move on. You're up. They're probably dating other people. I don't know anything about it, but they're probably dating new people. Like, bring that other person. And I think too, we put so much pressure on breakups. And so as like the best friend of someone, you know, if that was me in her shoes, I'd just be like, look, like, I love you so much, but I can't tell Johnny, if, you know, if that was this, I can't tell Johnny, like, you can't be friends with him anymore. That's so unfair to him.
Yeah.
So that would be, I agree with you. I think having your 2 cents and just kind of like keeping things separate and all of that would be perfect.
There's a compromise somewhere there.
Yes, there is. Remember, compromise. Anyway, guys, this was such a great episode. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to hear from you. So if you have anything you're interested in, topics, questions, we want to answer them on here. And let us know if you have a birthday coming up as well, because we want to give you shout outs and answer any of the questions that you have. So make sure to DM us. We have a poll pretty much that goes up weekly where you can answer any of your questions. And I know it's like cancer babies are coming up. One of my best friends is a cancer. Her birthday is coming up. So we want to give shout outs to those.
Okay, and like and subscribe because that helps us bring more content to you. And follow us on all social media platforms. We'd love to hear from you.
Because in this space, you're not alone.
You can always
Call your mom.